whose career has stretched across science fiction, crime, and young adult fantasy. Marianne was born on the 5th of January 1961 in Perth, Western Australia. If you've ever been to Perth, you'll know it's a beautiful city, the state's capital, resting along the Indian Ocean with sunshine almost year-round. I'm from Perth myself, so I can tell you firsthand it's a pretty special place to grow up. Marianne calls herself a country girl. She grew up on a farm where she spent her childhood devouring pulp westerns and boys' adventure stories. She admits she spent an unhealthy amount of time daydreaming about being an action hero. At 11, she went off to boarding school in Perth and later studied film and television at Curtin University. Her love of stories never left her, but it wasn't until her 30s that she found the discipline to truly commit to writing. She says the best advice she ever received came from science fiction and horror writer Bill Congreve, and it was short and sharp. Finish what you start. That advice shaped her writing practice. Marianne doesn't chase massive word counts. She chases consistency, as she puts it. A little every day except Sunday. Sometimes only a paragraph, sometimes 1,000 words. I'm not one to write huge amounts in a day, but I do write most days. Her process often begins in a notebook with dot points and even a few squiggly diagrams. She laughs that it might not look like much, but for her, that messy notebook is the foundation of every plot. From there, it's straight into the writing. As a teenager, Marianne was introduced to Arthur C. Clarke's Rendezvous with Rama by her future husband, a mechanical engineer. She jokes, "I fell in love with an engineer and spent 10 years living in Paraburdu." But it wasn't until moving to Queensland, about 15 years ago, that she began writing seriously. Queensland also gave her another love: long summer holidays on North Stradbroke Island. Marianne doesn't like to be boxed into a single genre. She describes herself as a versatile writer, saying, "I swing between different subgenres of science fiction, crime, and young adult fantasy. My first SF series was post-cyberpunk. The next was space opera. I've written humorous crime, and I've got a dark YA fantasy on the way. I love science fiction, but I could never see myself writing just one kind of book forever." Her reading journey tells a similar story. She didn't actually discover science fiction until her 20s, quite late compared to many writers. But once she did, she immersed herself in it completely. It was all she read for years. These days, though, her bedside table is stacked with a much wider mix. Now, you might have noticed that some of her books are published under Marianne de Pierres, while others are under Marianne Delacour. Why two names? Well, for Marianne, it's about clarity. She explains, "I've published 7 SF novels, and I didn't want my SF readership confused. It's a different style and tone, and I think it's only fair to signal that clearly." When asked about influences, Marianne has a long list, both women and men who shaped her love of speculative fiction. Her list includes Lilith's Brood by Octavia Butler, Ash by Mary Gentle, Divine Endurance by Gwyneth Jones, Beggars in Spain by Nancy Kress, Neuromancer by William Gibson, Vermilion Sands by J.G. Ballard, and of course Arthur C. Clarke's Rama Revealed, among many others. But being a science fiction author in Australia hasn't been without its challenges. Marianne puts it bluntly: publishing science fiction in Australia is hard, full stop. The reading audience for it is small, and the publishing industry doesn't really support it currently. I've had to get inventive in the ways I manage this problem, but that's for another discussion. And that's Marianne de Pierres, versatile, persistent, and creative in every sense. A country girl turned action hero dreamer turned science fiction writer who continues to carve out her own path in a challenging industry. That's it for today's episode on Marianne de Pierres. Join me next time as we uncover the story of another author whose words have shaped worlds of their own.